Their 226 new sales plummeted quickly. So they did one thing to turn around that sales growth even quicker. Welcome to Trade Sales Made Simple, the show helping 7 to 8 figure trade, construction and industry leaders finally end the stress of inconsistent sales by simplifying your sales systems so that you can close more deals and grow faster. I'm your host, Ben Wright, and over the last 15 years, I've helped hundreds of trade and sales leaders grow their businesses and generate over $200 million in additional revenue by simplifying their sales processes. Let's get started. So today I want to run through how some very small changes for a podcast listener, in fact, this was a podcast listener of a show that I guested on overseas, a US-based business, how they were able to really quickly change their sales results after listening to the interaction that we had together on this podcast. And look, I'll read a snippet of this email that I have here, but it goes along these lines. I've been struggling to close some of my prospects, and listening to your podcast with Ben Wright helped me return to simplify communications with my proposals. Now, this is a customer that has a really healthy retention rate. And from listening to our podcast, they were actually able to have a recharge of the process that they were following and get some results around changing just a few simple things. So what did they do? Well, the main thing that they did was simplify their communications. And that's all around making sure that when they're talking to their customers, they got really clear around what their customer needed, when they needed it by, and who needed to tick it off. Now, in our world, we call that the 3Ds. In their world, they called it simplification of communications. But it's a really interesting topic for you to think about, because right now when we have a market dynamic where people are flooded with information, phone, email, text message, social media, right? When you get that screen time pop up on your mobile phone every Monday morning that says the average screen time hours per day that you had from the last week. If you're not an iPhone user, I apologize. But for those that get that, those numbers are large for many of us right now. And the reason they're large is because we just have so much inbound communication. Those businesses that are able to simplify it, and what I really want you to think about as you're listening today, because this is very much a different pace podcast. I like to throw these in every now and then, right? So we're not just talking about the same topics in the same methods all the time, right? But I want you to have a think about in your business where you have complexity in communication, where your emails are too long, where your sales process is too complicated, where your quotes go into too much detail, where your explanations to customers around how you add value to them are too complex, where your product instructions or your service instructions are not simple enough for people to understand, when your offer can't be understood by a 12-year-old, right? Whenever you find that there's a level of complexity in your customer communications, what can you do to simplify them? And the lens that I'd encourage you to think about that around how we can better understand what our customer needs, when they need it by, and who needs to tick it off. And that's the 3Ds piece that we have spoken about in great detail in this business. But I think the really impactful lens that I'm encouraging you to take today is to pick out these areas of your business and run an eye over them for simplification in communications. So the first one is your website. How can your customers go through your website and find a story that can relate to them? A simple story that allows them to engage with your business. Any of your emails that go out to customers when a new lead comes in. Any nurturing sequences that you have, if you have one. Any brochures that you hand out to your customers. Are they easy to read? Is the message simple and clear? Your quote. How easy is your quote to read? Is it personalized? Does it tell stories? And does it show that your customer how you're going to go about something? Now, if you haven't listened to episode 241, jump back and do that. It's only 2 episodes ago and it goes into this in more detail. Any of your follow-up emails or materials that you send to customers after you quote, and then any of your contracts. Now, yes, I understand contracts need a level of detail in them. However, contracts for a $10,000 project that are accompanied by 3 pages of T's and C's can get really difficult for people to swallow. So I'd love you to think about across those areas where you can simplify your communications. So you can talk to your customers to show a lot about what we spoke about in last episode 242. Right, where you can make a great first impression in your first 7 seconds, where you can listen more than you're talking to customers, and where you can be memorable. Because this is a really nice follow-on episode. In fact, if you haven't listened to 242, jump back, put this on pause, listen to that, and come back to this one and listen to it again. Because building relationships and simple communications go hand in hand. Now, this is a really short episode today, but sometimes the simplest messages, I hear what we're talking about today, can make the biggest difference to businesses. So the message coming from me today is because I've seen firsthand from a podcast listener in the US who heard a podcast episode that I guested on openly thank us for reminding them to simplify their communications. Now, for most people to send that email, right, it needs to have had a positive impact, but it also takes time. And it's certainly a rarer listener than a more common listener that actually reaches out and says, hey, thank you. So I'd like you to have a think about simplification as a lens in your communications with customers. The idea here is that I want to help you grow your business. I want you to have less frustration and wasted time on quotes you're not winning. I don't want you to get those same stressful results, work long hours, not have enough money in the bank for long. And the reason we do that and the way we do that is through this podcast, but also the free quoting quiz that will pinpoint exactly why you're not winning more jobs and what you can do to quickly grow your sales by 20 to 25%. So you can click on the free quiz link. Takes less than a minute, and I personally review each of the responses that come through. That's it for today. Please keep thinking about how you can be 1% better each and every day because it does make all the difference. Bye for now.